Some of my major jobs was chopping up firelighting wood for all the 7 fires that was in the pub, and filling up all buckets of coal for the fires. And during the war with blackout, we then had shutters made for the windows downstairs, and that was another job of mine, was to put the shutters against the windows overnight and then take them down in the morning before going off to school. We had no running water in those days, so the village pumps were used, and the children on their way to school would just carry the empty buckets to the pump, leave it alongside the pump until they came out of school, and then filled their buckets and carried their buckets of water home. We had evacuees, and the children were used to bathrooms and water-borne toilets to come to villages that had earth toilets or bucket toilets down the bottom of the garden, and then tin baths for bathing in. It didn't suit them too well. So some only stayed a week, others stayed longer, but they all eventually went back home before the end of the war. I can recall one lady that would come out from Bristol, and she carried all her jewellery in her handbag. And she would come and show the jewellery to my mother in the pub. And I know at times I was in there when all this jewellery was being shown to my mother, who became envious of some of the jewellery. They came up the River Severn, landed on the banks of the Severn, and then came through Olveston and Tockington to attack the aircraft works at Patchway and Filton. It was a mock invasion by soldiers, English soldiers, but they were acting as enemy, attacking to check whether all the precautions were in place. They were going to let off a gas bomb. And this was going to happen outside the pub, but my grandmother would not wear a gas mask. Every time a gas mask was put on, she would rip it off her face. So my mother remonstrated with those that organised or was going to organise the gas bomb set off. And one of them was the village school headmaster. And of course, in the end, they didn't know what to do, so they decided not to set the gas bomb off, to the relief of everybody. The soldiers were billeted in the pub overnight. Because of that, the gas rattle, which was going to be the warning device for gas, was left behind in the pub. Of course, being a young person, I happened to spot it and secreted it away somewhere or another, and I've been able to retain it ever since. All the services were issued with a whistle and a lanyard. The ARP, Home Guard, the Auxiliary Fire Service, the whistle was used before the major air raid sirens were introduced. Well, you had one continual blast warning you of an air raid, and another one at the end. They would go around doing short blasts. During the war, the school children had to assist with harvest and things like that. And of course, we would then go picking up potatoes or picking blackberries or picking hips and haws. And I can always remember the daylight raids on Bristol because they occurred at potato harvesting time in the September. After attacking the aircraft factory, the empty planes returned to pick up the River Severn, and they were actually flying over us. And of course, the farmer was quite concerned with all these enemy aircraft flying over us. They got us running to the side of the field, over the ridges of potatoes, everybody falling everywhere, to get into a ditch behind a hedge so that we were safe. I used to help in the local grocer's stroke baker's shop. You had to register your ration books, and you could only buy your food from those that you were registered with. And so that was a task I took, was to frank all the coupons on a Saturday afternoon. And then after that I would have a free tea in the baker's shop. Farmers had to increase production, and with that, tractors started to be introduced. Of course, up to then, the main power for farms were cart horses, where, of course, most employment was associated with agriculture. Of course, with tractors and other machinery that came in, less labour, and that was concerned. A lot of the soldiers were returning, and there were no vacancies on the farm. But there were vacancies at the Bristol Aircraft Company. So a lot then changed occupations and went and started in the aircraft factory. So from that period, that's how agriculture as an employment started to demise in the villages.